Hey guys, so for the last few days I've been hanging out with, I don't know if you can see my friend Jimmy back there, he's grabbing his hat. But I've been hanging out at his house here near Drama in a small village. And now we're heading to go see Kavala. We're going to Kavala. And to go see Alexander the Great's palace. And a few other things. So get back to you guys soon.
See the back of it?
Nah. Oh, nice.
Leaning in the chair.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Hey guys, so we're in this town called Philippi, and Philippi is named after Philip II of Macedon, who took over this area in 356 BC. So I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of a rundown what was on here, because I am unaware of this. Jimmy actually just brought me here. So there was a big battle that took place in 42 BC between the Roman forces who wanted to preserve the Republic and who favored Augustus. And so the city was eventually taken over by Rome, and Augustus appointed or allowed a lot of the old Roman legionnaires to live here. And so this whole city was basically inhabited by former elite Roman legionnaires who fought for Augustus. So also in 49 and 50 AD, apparently Apostle Paul, who, if you guys remember when I was in Malta, crashed on an island there in a shipwreck while being taken back to stand trial for his atrocities against the old gods or whatever in his Christianity. So apparently Apostle Paul was being held captive here. He left from here on the fishing boat past Malta on his way back to, I forget where they were taking him. But actually, so Apostle Paul was actually being held captive, or was caught here. But before he was caught, he created the very first Christian community here in Philippi. So there's a lot of history here when it spans from the Greeks to the Romans to Apostle Paul and the history of Christianity. So this is a huge historical spot, and Jimmy was explaining everything to me. But there's also a theater here that we're going to go explore now, and I'll give you guys some more information on that. Thanks. So as I told you guys before, when I was in Malta, there was the St. Paul's Island where St. Paul prison ship had crashed. And so this is the actual prison that St. Paul was in before he headed to Malta. Yeah, this is his prison.
This is his prison.
It's pretty simple.
Wow.
For those guys who don't know, this is Jimmy. He's doing his own selfie.
And I'm not a Paul, is he?
He's not a Paul. But for those of you in Sebring or on my page in Florida, this is Jimmy. He owns Jimmy's Greek restaurant in Sebring. So you'll have to go check him out in Sebring, but he's actually from Greece. And so he's over here right now, and I had the great opportunity to meet up with Jimmy, and he's hosted me for the last few days since I've been here. And he's showing me around to all these local things, and we had some local food at his brother's house and the restaurants, and it's been amazing so far. So you'll see more of Jimmy in the next coming days on these videos. And so Jimmy, thank you so very much, and
you're welcome, Mike.
Go see Jimmy at Jimmy's restaurant in Sebring, Florida. All right, we'll get back to you soon. There's more to see. There's a lot more to see here. And then after this, we're going to head to Kavalos, I think. So maybe you'll see a little bit of nightlife and things like that in Kavalos. So, and this is the the Roman Forum, which is like what you guys saw in Greece basically, but this is the Philippus version of the Roman Forum. So this would have been where the marketplaces were, where everybody sold their wares, their pottery, their metal, everything like that. And so this area here has a lot of history, rich history, all the way back to BC times. So it's a pretty amazing area. So I'll give you guys some more information. Sorry guys if I seem a little, I'm gonna carry on because that's what we need to do, is carry on. But I'm literally here exploring this place, and I just found out that Anthony Bourdain died, and apparently initial reports he took his own life. So I'm not going to judge or anything. I just shot a brief video where I got a little emotional because Anthony was such an inspiration to me, and so that video will be uploaded separately, and I won't go into it on this video. But if you see a little bit of an attitude change in me while I'm trying to explain these beautiful places to you guys the rest of the day, that's part of it. That's part of the reason. So, or the reason. But anyway, we're going to carry on, and so I'm still in Philippi, and this is the marketplace that I showed you guys earlier. And this was also another temple, which was turned into a basilica during the Christian times when St. Paul was here. And it's one of, I believe, 2 or 3 basilicas that are in this area. And so this would have been a beautiful temple here. And this would have been a marketplace too, just like the forum that I showed you guys in Rome. And so it had all this beautiful marble here, and as you can see, the decoration on the marble that's, you know, it's been here for thousands of years, that still is holding for the most part. The columns have fallen down. I went through some transition in World War II as well. So this would have been a giant marketplace. The stalls where people would have sold their wares, metal and things like that, the temples for them to worship in, and so forth. And it's just a massive forum, just like others that I've showed you guys on this trip through Italy and Croatia and other places. And so there's just such amazing history. And for those of you who don't know, this area also, who may be into gladiator history, this area was also under attack by the Thracians. And so the Thracians was the clan or the country, which is modern day Bulgaria, if I'm not mistaken. But that is where Spartacus came from, the famous rebellious gladiator who rebelled against Rome. At one point, Spartacus actually fought with the Romans. The Thracians created an alliance with the Romans and fought alongside them. And the Romans promised them things that they later did not follow through with. And so that led to a rebellion of the Thracians against the Romans, which obviously the Thracians were great fighters, but not able to take out the Roman Empire by any means. And so they lost, and in a battle, Spartacus was taken hostage as a war hostage or whatever, prisoner of war, turned into a slave, and then he became a gladiator eventually. And so those of you who know the story, from there he became a famous gladiator who then ended up rebelling against the Roman Empire again with his elite gladiator force. But anyway, the Thracians were actually attacking this area, and this area sided with King Philip II from Macedonia to help them ward off or fight off the Thracians, of which they did. And so this survived under King Philip II, I believe, of Macedonia, up until Augustus Caesar came and took it over. And after that, it was under Roman control for the majority of the time after. But such amazing history here. So much architecture that's left, I mean, a lot of it is sort of, fallen down, and they're in the process again, like you saw in Athens, they're in the process again of trying to refurbish it or build it up or try to restructure. But, with the economy and things like that Greece has been going through, I would imagine the antiquities or archaeological areas probably took cuts. And so they sort of have to pick and choose where they're going to excavate and what they're going to do. But there's a little bit more to explore here, and then I'm going to catch back up with Jimmy, who's up there. And then we're going to head on to a seaside area that I'm going to show you guys. And so I will get back to you guys soon. Much respect, Anthony. I appreciate everything. You were an inspiration to me to live my dream and travel this world. And that's what I will remember. That's what I'll take away from Anthony. What an amazing person he was and what he brought to the world that he may or may not have known what he did. And I just wish that I could have met him in person. I'll talk to you guys soon. Where the first church was built in about 313 AD or so. The first church built to honor St. Paul, who was here in that prison cell I showed you guys earlier with Jimmy. And so it was a different form, but it had the columns, and then it had the mosaics you can see there, which the mosaics, I believe, tell the story of Paul coming here. But you can see the detail. For those of you who don't know, those mosaic pieces are all put in one little teeny tiny colored tile piece at a time. Nowadays, when you do a mosaic, it's on a sheet, so you can put many down at one time. But back then, it was every little piece. And so the people who set that were very, very intricate people and very sought after if they were very good. Because it would take them a long time to do, but they were very good at laying out a pattern that eventually showed a picture. But this is where the first church was dedicated to St. Paul. It was about 250 years after his death, but nevertheless, it was the first one dedicated to Paul in this area, so I thought that was kind of neat. So we got a little bit more to go, and then I'm going to meet up with Jimmy, and then we're going to have to get out of here, because I know we're running low on time. So I will get back to you guys soon, okay? So now, if I'm not mistaken, the church that was dedicated to St. Paul prior to that was a temple to Greek gods, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's why the columns were there, and it was a bit of a different church as far as like a Christian church. And behind that temple, as in most Roman and Greek things, were baths. So these were all Roman baths, bath areas, and also tombs were around this area. I believe they might have been over in that area. They're still doing some excavation over there. And so, but these were bath areas, and they had the clay pots, which were probably to create some sort of steam. I'm not sure, but some of the clay pots still remain. And the columns, the columns that would have held roofs up, so there would have been roofs over top of all of this. But I just read on the thing back there that they had the Roman baths here, and cisterns where people would get the water from, and other things, statues and marble and everything would have sort of decorated the landscape or the area. And you can see some of, that stuff still here. You can see some of the stuff from pillars still there. It's buried under the ground a little bit. And then what was probably some sort of water fountain or something, to some sort of water holder. And then these areas, you can see where it looked like it was a bench, possibly with a hole, so that could have been the Roman bathroom. Would be my guess. The way it looks. That's your ancient Roman toilet. Nice. I get to show you an ancient Roman toilet on this video. That's great. That's actually the first ancient Roman toilet I have ever seen. So it's a first for both of us. The things you find sometimes when you're traveling around that you don't expect to see. So anyway, I guess we are pretty much done here, but it's an amazing sight to see, and it's off the path, and there's not a whole lot of backpackers, there's not a whole lot of tourists that come this direction. There are hotels to stay here. There are airports near here. Kavala, there's an airport in Kavala, there's an airport in I always say it wrong. Nikonios. Nikki. The nickname of it is Nikki. I've been struggling with these Greek words since I've been here. And Jimmy has been trying to teach me as much as possible, because his brother and his sister-in-law don't speak much English at all, if any. And they've made some amazing meals for lunch. Oh my God. The meals have been amazing. I'm so blessed to have known Jimmy, seriously, and been able to meet him here, because I get such a cultural experience here. Such a cultural experience here with the food and the people, and I get to explore northern Greece, where a lot of people just don't seem to come. And there's so much rich history up here, from the Turks to the Byzantines to the Bulgarians to the, I mean, there's just so much rich history here. So anyway, all right guys, well, we're off to the next destination, and I will get back to you guys when we get there. And like I said, I'm trying to kick up my mood a little bit more after hearing about the devastating loss of Anthony Bourdain. So I don't want to try to make this whole, I did a separate segment on that, like I said earlier, and so I'm just going to leave it at that, so I don't want to drag it out too much. But I'm trying to pick up my emotions and get back to my normal self. So, from beautiful Philippi, Greece, the ancient city of Philippi, I'll see you guys in the next destination, which I believe is Kavala, Greece. So, alright guys, talk to you soon.